real talk starts. So take a seat, have a chat, table talk, where the real talk's at.
Would you say that Daniel was a rebel?
Yes and no. Yes and no. The reason being is he did what was asked of him or what was expected of him. He was a captive. All right. Not specifically a slave, especially the way we think of slavery.
Right.
I guess technically he was a slave, but different time period, different setting. So in ways, no, because he did what was asked of him, what was expected of him, up until it contradicted either God or Hebrew law or what. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He wouldn't compromise his faith for commands. So in that aspect, yes. But as far as a pain in the butt anarchist, no. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Good evening, everybody. As you can see, we're discussing the book of Daniel tonight. I was asking Chris before we started, and I decided to ask him again if Daniel was a rebel or if he's just trying to do things the right way or the
Are we
wrong way.
skipping the theme song again?
The theme song.
The table talk.
Oh, but I lost it. We can play it. A rabbit.
But back to Daniel.
Yeah. Daniel Boone.
No, Daniel
What they call him? Misha?
Belteshazzar.
Belshazzar. That sounds like a college word.
Probably more Aramaic. Got a lot of syllables in there.
Yeah. Well, like I said a while ago, I had a hard time comprehending this. I mean, yeah, it's a book. It's about chapter about 4 different kings, 8 different kings. I don't know how many it's going to be by the time we get said and done. But it's going to be about faith regardless.
Yeah.
Because the king.
Obedience.
Yeah, for sure. Obedience to God. The king wanted him to change his name, and he refused to.
Well,
He didn't want to defile himself.
my understanding is that he wouldn't change his name, but he would answer to the Babylonian name, depending on who was talking to him.
Yeah.
You know, there were times listed, if memory serves correct, that Nebuchadnezzar may have referred to him in either name.
Yeah.
You know, I believe whoever was, you know, like in the early days, the chief of the palace guard or whatever, whoever was their overseer. Now, I think he kind of insisted on the Babylonian name because that could cost him his head.
Yeah, I didn't remember the Babylonian.
And the stupid thing is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those are their Babylonian names.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. What actually surprised me is they're easier to pronounce than their Hebrew names.
Yeah. They're more English language, and it tells that they were the king of they were descendants of the king and the noble families.
Yes.
So Meshach, Abednego, and the Shadrach. So now, do you have to say it in that order, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Does
I think that's just the way we've heard it so long that kind of rolls off the tongue like chimichanga.
It kind of reminds me like watching wrestling.
Yeah.
You have these 3 popular people coming out, and they got to have these noble names.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's kind of the same concept.
Could be.
Going through chapters 1 and 2. It's just crazy how a 14-year-old guy, they don't really say his name. We're just guessing. Maybe, I guess. I don't remember exactly. I just got the number 14 stuck in my head when me and Jen were talking about it. How he has so much faith at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that he ever, don't seem like that he ever got scared going through this whole process.
I don't know that it ever tells us one way or the other, but what he didn't do, because let's face it, even those of the greatest faith, they approach times where there is fear concern. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whether you act on that fear or act in faith are two different stories, generally with two very different outcomes. Um, when the when Nebuchadnezzar first had his dream and called all of his magicians and magi and wise men, I mean, think about the task at hand. He called these men in here and said, I have had a dream and it's bothered me.
Yeah.
You need to tell me what the meaning of my dream is, but you also have to tell me what I dreamed.
Yeah.
That's a tall order. And, his wise men, so to speak, they asked him, it's like, sir, that's impossible. You have to tell us what you actually dreamed and then we can interpret it. Which I'm going to say Nebuchadnezzar probably had some, I don't know, bipolar going on or something. But he went straight to, no, you're no true wise man if you can't tell me what I actually dreamed. And now I'm going to cut off all your heads.
Yeah.
And I want to say tear them from limb to limb and possibly their families too. I mean, he went.
I'm trying to remember all that. I've read it twice in the last 2 weeks trying to.
Well, and where I was going with that is when it came around to Daniel finding out about this, I would say that there was a modicum of concern, because he hears about this. He's like, I haven't even spoke to the king, but because I'm listed with these guys, I'm fixing to lose my head.
Yeah.
Or
something he didn't even do.
Right. Or was even a part of.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that he got a hold of his handler to take him to the king, where he like, give me a day or two, let me pray. And here we go. I don't know that it would be fair or unfair to say that Daniel was scared. I mean, that would certainly get my attention. But what he didn't do was act in fear.
Right.
He acted in faith.
Yeah.
Went straight to the king's like, hey, let me talk to my God.
There's that word again, faith.
Yeah.
That's crazy how much that is in this Bible. And that's a lot of problem with people nowadays. They don't have faith.
Well, I don't know if I brought this up on our last podcast or just one of the times I was running my mouth. But the New Testament, whether it's Christ in and of himself or who Christ is and what he did, that is referred to as the cornerstone of the entire faith.
Right.
If Christ is the cornerstone, I would say that faith is the mortar that holds the rest of it together.
Right.
Yeah,
faith is like the butter to the bread, so to speak. And it's crazy how they had to go through this training for 3 years.
Yeah.
To help to serve the king.
Mm-hmm.
He was, let's say here, he's taught to their customs and language. Family probably killed, taken from his home, his country, that changed his name and teaches him their ways and attempt to get him to turn from God.
Well, it could go either way. I would say that there was a portion of his family killed.
Yeah.
But a big, depending on which time frame and what area we're talking about, but a normal custom was you took their, kind of like they brought up in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You took their kids hostage and that kept them in line.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part is that's not relevant to the story of Daniel and what they're trying to tell us in the Bible. So it doesn't tell us,
Yeah.
Now it very well might bring that up somewhere else, which oftentimes the Bible does, but I have not done a deep dive, to figure that out. If it even, of course, then again, it might be in the Book of Jubilees for all I know.
Yeah. It's definitely worth deep diving into for sure.
Right.
Not just the Book of Daniel, the whole Bible in general. And I think that's one of the reasons why God called us to do this podcast to teach us to dig into the Bible more and to hold us accountable for the people that are watching us, and
Well,
hopefully to follow Christ, not follow us.
yeah, don't follow me. Don't follow
You
me.
might get stuck in the woods
I, I'm
somewhere.
I'm kind of like Aaron Brockovich. I got two wrong feet and friggin' ugly shoes. Don't follow me. Follow Christ.
Yes.
Um, but no, my thing, what brought me, what really got my interest in it is you can go on YouTube, you can listen to a multitude of pastors, preachers, teachers, and some of them do a excellent job. And I'm not trying to knock any of them down. But a lot of times the message you get is of such an elementary level.
Right.
And my head always wants to know if I have the slightest interest. And now if I don't have interest, I'm, hey, look, a piece of Christmas stencil. But if it's something that catches my interest, I want to know more. There is so much of the Bible there. I need more than John 3:16. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that might be the sum total, like if you was to break it down into the simplest form, that's it. Okay, fine. What are the other 60 some odd books for?
Right.
And it's the same thing, well, why do bad things happen to good people? If bad things didn't happen to good people, the book of Job wouldn't be in there.
Right.
You know,
How do we know they're good people, though? I mean, it's just.
that is our standard of measure.
Right.
When we compare to God's standard of measure, we all fall short of the glory of God. Our righteousness is but filthy rags. All of us have sinned. Our standard isn't good enough. You can't just be a good person. That's a completely different sermon. But where were we going with that?
I don't know.
What was we talking about?
Well, I mean, would Daniel be considered one of the good people?
I would say that Daniel as an individual, now, it never tells us that he sinned or anything like that. Of course, at the time, he also lived under law.
Right.
So depending on the sin, depended on the sacrifice, so on and so forth. There was temporary atonement.
Right.
That being said, from what I can gather from the book of Daniel, he would have been considered much like Saul or Paul, depending on where you're at in Scripture. According to the law, he was righteous before God. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he kept the laws, the commandments. He would, like he kept the food commandments. He wouldn't defile himself with wrong food.
That he wouldn't eat the meat or drink the wine.
No, because all of it in Babylon, especially in the palace, was dedicated or sacrificed to false gods.
I call it tainted.
Yeah. In both senses of the word.
Yeah. Yeah, he requested prince of. Yeah, he didn't want to defile himself. That Paul said Daniel was a Nazarite, such as a Samson. Okay. So he brought Daniel into favor and tender love with his prince of the Emox. Emox? These words are so hard to pronounce.
Some of them are, but, we're not Hebrew.
No. I'm glad. I don't know if I want to be a Hebrew language or not. It'd be tough. I have a hard time speaking English as it is.
That's where I'm at.
Of course, we don't speak English. We speak Kentucky.
Right. Yeah, the closest to Hebrew I get is making the coffee.
I love coffee.
I do too. I do too. Just another one of a million reasons why we know God loves us.
I'm waiting for her to chime in and say something.
Yeah.
Can you see the chat? I don't know if I brought it up or not.
I don't have it on mine. Well, yeah, there is a.
Okay, click on chat and then click on live stream.
First off, the missus says, hello, everyone. Second, yes, all the wise men and their families. So when the decree went out, hey, tell me my dream and what it means. If you can't do this, everybody was having a bad day.
I wonder, I forgot to ask her about this when we are going over this the other night. The wise men. I picture tall people, I don't know why tall, but taller than me, obviously, wise men. Were they like FBI agents, CSI, in today's world?
My understanding is that these would have been what would be considered the learned men. They were Well, some of them probably were on a more religious front with whatever gods the Babylonians worshipped. But you also had astrologers, some that, watched the stars, watched the signs and whatnot, knew the seasons. You also had some that were probably leaning into alchemy.
Okay.
Okay, so what you had was what was considered the learned brotherhood, so to speak.
Okay.
Different factions, but all together.
Okay. I get it now. So, all right. Tall, slender, black coats, glasses.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean tall, slender, and black coated.
I was just trying to picture this in my wall.
I get it, but the other aspect where Daniel and his chums fit in is that they had a knowledge I had a fancy word on the tip of my tongue. I just don't want to say the wrong word. An aptitude for learning. All right, so not like you mentioned, they had 3 years in service to learn of the Babylonians. Apparently, they did exceptionally well in not only learning to speak it, but also to write it and to understand it.
Right.
So that rated them in with servants of the palace, as far as wise men go, or the magi, or I don't remember how it's specifically worded.
So, chapter 1 in the book of Daniel, it'll give you the history of Daniel. How he basically had to go through this training. Didn't want to change his name. Didn't want to eat the meat. Didn't want to drink the wine. I wonder, trying to see, and this all occurred before Christ, 605 BC.
Right.
Trying to think what else to. And then, by the way, I got a cheat book that my wife gave me. I have my own notes also.
I don't have a note that Daniel refused to change his name. He did, have the conversation about the food and the wine and whatnot.
But where that was, I might have been in 2.
Might have been. Either way, at this point, that's not a
right,
huge aspect.
Yeah. Anyway, he does say something, but I just don't remember where it was.
Very well might. Like I said, I did a reading earlier, and then went to a motorcycle rodeo. It's a different experience. People out there acting silly and having a good time.
Yeah.
I did go to a lawnmower derby once.
Did you head hurt afterwards? Were you in it?
I was not in it.
Okay.
I heard about it. I knew 2 people that were actually competing. So at this lawnmower derby, I can't remember all the events, but they did barrel racing, a barrel push or roll, so to speak. You had to push a barrel rolling across, the ring, turn around and push it back. And it was a timed event. Of course, the barrel race was a timed event too. I want to say they had several other events, but the end of it was a lawnmower demolition derby. And I mean this in the nicest possible way. It was the redneckest thing I've ever seen in my life. I encourage everybody to go at least once, because I actually had a good time. It's just not what I thought it would be. I don't know what I thought it would be, but it was interesting.
I went to one 2 years ago.
Right.
It looked like it could have hurt. I just don't know. They even had the power wheels, and that would be fun.
Right.
If I could fit in one.
Right.
I'd have to have 2 of them, one for each foot. And my alarms won't be long enough. But yeah, somewhere in here it says something
That's
about
God keeping you safe.
Yes, they want to change Daniel's name, and it come down to where he don't want to defile himself. That being part of that conversation, and then okay, and as in chapter 1 through 21. Nebuchadnezzar's dreams in chapter 2. That's when they start talking about
Off with your head.
Yeah, interpreting the dream and all that good stuff. That just Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I love that. And there's a song that I've listened to. Probably not your kind of music. but Tyson James is kind of a Christian rap artist, so to
Right.
speak. And the name of his song is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And every time I hear that, I think about that song. And it's a Christian rapper, so not many people like rappers,
Well, I mean, different people do.
unless they're cheeseburger rappers.
I do like those kind of rappers. I do.
There we go, chasing the squirrel.
Okay.
That's what makes it fun. Anyway, so chapter 1, where do you want to touch on?
Well, to be honest with you,
My notes are everywhere.
we've kind of given a decent enough overview. Well, when it comes to the food aspect, we can touch on this. When the chief of staff, brought them food, Daniel seen what it was and politely refused. Which, of course, the chief guard's like, no, I have to keep you healthy or I lose my head.
Right.
So Daniel proposed a challenge. He said, let us have only water and vegetables that have not been sacrificed or blessed to any of your gods. Just bring us plain food. And in 10 days, compare our health to that of everybody else. And if we look poorly, then we will consent.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
But if we don't, leave us alone, so to speak.
Right.
And the guy, he's like, it's 10 days, it's worth the gamble. And in his mind, he won. So 10 days later, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were found to be in better shape and healthier than everybody else eating the palace food. So they kind of got their way with that one. And, chances are that was not something that everybody knew about.
Right.
Because people were losing their heads pretty easy back then.
Yeah.
It was allowed, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not celebrated, but allowed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that was a thing. And, of course, let's see here. It doesn't necessarily say that Daniel and his homies prayed, over that specific thing.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that either.
Being what we would call good Hebrews, I can't see where they wouldn't pray over it. But it doesn't tell us. There's so many things in Scripture,
Well, it looks like this. It says, as for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge, instilled in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams.
Right.
So because they didn't eat the meat and they had just the fruit and veggies, they were more clear-minded.
I don't know that it says that
Right.
specifically.
That's why I understand it.
Right. Now, like I said, that could go either way. I try to be careful not to jump to conclusion.
Right.
But what we do know is they had an aptitude for learning, yes. And it very well could be that God enhanced that, helped their understanding and their wisdom and whatnot. And then, of course, Daniel's interpretation of dreams, Daniel never took credit for that. And that was something that I wanted to bring up. Did Daniel have the power to interpret dreams?
Guess we'll find
Think
out.
about that very carefully.
We'll find out, won't we?
Well, the reason I ask, or let me say it better, did Daniel have power in and of himself to interpret dreams? And I'm going to go with no, because Daniel never said, hey, tell me what it is, and I'll handle this.
Right.
And here's my interpretation. It was always God said, So it sounds more.
Was he a spokesman for God?
In certain ways, I do believe you could call Daniel a prophet, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same manner of, say, Jeremiah,
yeah,
or even Samuel, but because of the dreams and the interpretations, a prophet nonetheless. Because some of his dreams were prophetic. It wasn't just the interpretation of a dream,
right.
It was, hey, this is of things to come. But I believe the technical aspect of a prophet is someone who speaks on behalf of God. And every time Daniel gives the interpretation of a dream, he's like, this is what God has commanded. Then speaks.
Yeah.
Kind of one of them, thus saith the Lord. Like he never claimed the ability in and of himself. And that's the point I was making, like Moses kind of screwed himself when he got mad and struck the rock and said, here's water. Because he did that of his own accord. Does that make sense?
Yeah. She said quit spinning.
Huh?
She said you're spinning.
Oh, I probably am. I spin me right round, baby. Right. Here we go. Okay. So, on Daniel.
Look at the notes.
I don't have notes. You
On
have
your
notes.
screen.
Yeah.
Jesus called him a prophet in Matthew.
Yeah, that sounds good. There's some word in there that might be Ukrainian.
Although, I'm going to guess you have fat thumbs.
Which does happen, yes.
What is that word?
I have no idea.
To speak of? Oh, to speak of.
That could be.
SP. Yeah, that's right in the area there on the keyboard because she's probably in her laptop.
Right.
I love my wife. Oh, the life of electronics and technology.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to slip into chapter 2. Dream of a statue, picture of nations rising and falling and
We're going to
God's coming.
flip into chapter 2.
That sounded so wrong.
That sounded bad.
You just had to do it.
Yeah.
Slide into it.
Are you
Slip
comfortable?
into it. I am.
Okay.
I'll just slide out of his chair.
Well, just don't spin.
Oh, like this?
I don't know. Probably.
She said yes. So she was gifted to speaking. Oh boy.
Apparently, when I start spinning, I start echoing. That's reverb. I'm teasing. Go ahead.
Reverb.
Yeah.
What's reverb?
Thought you was a sound guy.
Is that a noun? Add noise, pronoun, reverb, a verb?
It's a sound effect.
I know. That's why I call him DJ Noid.
Right.
Because I forgot my ID one time. Anyways,
Either way, slipping into chapter 2.
yes, we are.
Say that in a husky voice. Slipping into chapter 2.
We need, what's his name? The guy that's on, what's his name? Not Star Wars, the other one.
Star Trek?
Yeah, Star Trek, that guy.
Which one?
The one I always use for the voices that tells the stories. What's his name?
Well, I mean, you had William Shatner to begin with.
That one. That guy.
Yeah. See, how did he speak? He always slowed down, then sped up real quick.
Yeah. Sound like a mixtape.
Kind of, yeah.
She said no.
Now we're in trouble.
With emails. Yeah,
Y'all were supposed to be talking about Nebuchadnezzar, not Shatner.
Shadrach, go hand in hand. Starts with an SH.
Shatner and Abednego?
Yeah. Me, Shadrach. Shadrach. Oh.
You'll have to stop. You'll have yourself confused.
Yes, I already am.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
Chapter 2 is where it talks about the king's dream.
Right.
And it's disturbing.
Yes, I can see where it would be.
Well, the crazy is we don't learn about the dream until what, chapter 7?
Well, yes and no. In chapter 2, he does.
Oh, it is in 2. It is. Okay. Yeah. So I just know from 2 tells us to go to 7, and I get confused because now I got to jump to 7. But we do the best we can to get through it, and without getting
Well,
chasing
chapter
squirrels.
7 dives deeper into it because Daniel had some dreams of his own.
Yeah.
Which further reinforce this one. That make sense?
Yeah. So I'll go back to her notes. That's where I was at. I was in the wrong part of the notes. That's okay. Yeah. Daniel's prophecy. I let my wife take notes. She wouldn't cheat for me in school. She never let me do it. She would never do my homework for me.
Dang, why not?
She said that she didn't like me. I was mean to her in school.
Was you?
Maybe. I may have tripped her and knocked her books out of her hands. It's all my way of trying to tell her how much I loved her and wanted to be with her. And evidently, it's not how you flirt. That was me flirting. Anyways,
Just be glad you didn't really like her, you know.
I know, right?
Like, that was my booger. I give it to you. All right?
I had one place to put it, and you got it.
Right.
Of course, she's charming now. 2 is Nebuchadnezzar's dream. 7 is a vision that Daniel had. Oh, see, I've read so much this week in this Daniel stuff. I just get it all kind of like that thing where you all kinds of numbers and letters and just that goes here. But yeah, number 2 is where talks about Nebuchadnezzar's dream. He's trying to get somebody to translate it. The 3 wise men.
Well, it wasn't 3 wise men. He had a whole coven, so to speak.
Yeah, magicians, enchanters, sorcerers.
Wise guys.
Yeah, it just blows my mind that they like nowadays. Magicians is demonic,
Right.
and it's not how you flirt. I guess because it's different times. I guess it's just crazy how you talk about magic and stuff like that is none of God. But back in the day, I guess because it has never.
A lot of it goes back to, you know, their understanding of things at the time. You know, you remember going through Greek and Roman mythology in school.
Vaguely.
If there was a, you know, thunderstorm that came, Zeus was mad. You know, like if the sea was terrible, Poseidon was having a day.
I see
You know,
that. Yeah.
and I have not dove into, let's see, a Babylonian, whatever they believed. Um, it does bring up different gods, lowercase g, but also plural.
Yeah.
I know there is references to Marduk, but I can't remember if that was Babylonian or Persian. I want to say that's more Persian, but don't quote me because I'm just going off of memory here.
Like when I was a kid, a thunder god was bowling,
Right.
and whenever Randy was flushing the toilet.
I would like to think he puts us in a better position than that. You know, so there's days I have to wonder that I haven't put myself in that position.
Right.
You know.
So,
More of an occult religion. You know. So yeah, they kind of made up gods as they went.
Yeah.
You know.
Man-made religion. So
very man-made idol worship. You know, whatever. I can't speak from experience because I can't wrap my head around it. Even the pantheon of like Greek and Roman and Norse mythologies. You know, there's certain aspects I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand where they're getting some of that from. You know, not that I agree, but understand. But there's other aspects. I'm like, what was the story of the one guy who did something and they had him chained down and crows would like come and eat his liver every day and then every night it grew back, and so he had to endure that for eternity. And I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good hell to me, you know?
Yeah. How did the liver grow back?
Right.
So we're back in touching base 2 again. At one point, the king got mad because they're trying to get more time. If I read that right. You're trying to gain more time. That's what it was.
Well, they asked him to say what the dream was, and he accused them of simply trying to buy time.
Yeah.
Being such a wanker.
Because you see that the word for me is firm. If you do not make the dream known to me, there is but one sentence for you. You have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the times change. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me its interpretation. The Chaldeans. What were the Chaldeans?
Where are you at?
Verse 10. Notes here.
I don't have that in the translation I'm reading. I've got the astrologers replied to the king, no one on earth can tell the king his dream, and no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any magician, enchanter, or astrologer.
What translation are you reading?
This one is currently NLT.
I'm in ESV.
Tell you what, we're going to check the Geneva.
On my other Bible app.
Okay, the Chaldeans. Yeah. I'm just going to assume, well, I'll just look it up. Okay. According to the internet, which is never wrong, a Chaldean is a member of an ancient people who lived in Chaldea around 800 BC and ruled Babylonia
Okay.
roughly 625 to 539 BC. They were renowned as astronomers and astrologers. And of course, also Chaldean is a Semitic language of the ancient Chaldean. So
That makes sense. Then.
if you were a Chaldean, you spoke Chaldean.
Yeah, you had they.
You know, so I am an American, which means I speak Kentucky.
The magicians, astrologers.
You
Yeah,
know,
I see it now.
I prefer Appalachian American.
It's a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not within the flesh. So
That's the part I like about Daniel. You see, even they said, "Hey, only the gods can know this." And Daniel steps up and is like, "Hey, I know a guy."
yeah,
You know, reminds me of that shirt. It's like I can't, but I know a guy. Go ahead. Sorry.
for this reason, the king was angry and very furious, and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. Of course, obviously, they did not kill him.
Well, according to the scripture, whoever was supposed to do the off with their heading, when they got Daniel rounded up, he said, "Hey," of course, he told him what was going on, told Daniel what was going on. And Daniel, it's like, "Hey, take me to the king. Let me talk to him."
Yeah.
So, in layman's terms, Daniel goes to the king, and the king restates what he had stated. It's like, "No, I have had a dream. It disturbed me. Somebody has to tell me what I dreamed and what it means, or everybody dies." And
Right.
Daniel pleaded, like, "Let me go speak to my God." You know, like he didn't say, like, "Don't kill everybody and just kill me." He let me, of course, he did ask Nebuchadnezzar to, like, just spare everybody until I get back.
Yeah, he said, let's see here. And Daniel kind of reminds me of, in today's society, a union steward, so to speak.
Depends on your feelings towards union stewards.
Right. Like he's a spokesperson.
In many ways, you could say that. But again, as a prophet, his job is to, well, A, follow God.
Right.
But also to speak on his behalf.
Right.
So in that aspect, yeah, he is a representative. Of course, as followers of Christ, so are we. The New Testament, I don't know how it's specifically worded, but we are ambassadors. We are representatives. We're not citizens of this world. We're citizens of that one. We're just here visiting.
Right.
Which does, depending on how you word it, sound very, waiting on the mothership. But the stupid thing is, and there are a lot of folks that they have no mind or heart for anything that could be considered religious. Part of that I get. There's another part I don't, because everybody has a belief system of sorts.
Right.
Which is their religion. That might not include a God, so to speak, but your possessions can become your God. Your children can become your God. Anything you worship or put in a position of priority. Like I've made the argument that maybe not science in and of itself, but some of the, not specifically scientists, but some of the theories pushed have become a type of religion. Because you can't question it. And if any information, like I've actually had that discussion with people. It's like when new information comes out, you're supposed to change your beliefs. Okay, tell me about all the times that new information has come out about, oh, I don't know, evolution, and you simply changed the theory to fit the new information. Like you didn't change your beliefs, you altered it to fit.
Hmm.
I'm like, that starts sounding very religious.
Man-made.
Very, very. Um, Not trying to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But let's see. Trying to catch up on the notes here.
Yeah. Basically what you're saying.
That's what it looks like. Yeah. So like Daniel, yeah, he asked for a timeout. So let me go talk to God. Do you have any more detailed aspect in the notes? Don't say no, and then watch her pop up. It's like, yes, you do.
Well, I'm reading the Bible in the English language and not the new. It's a New King James version that I'm reading the translation.
Right.
I read all kinds of. So Daniel went and asked the king to give him more time that he might tell the king the interpretation.
Right.
So then Daniel went to his home and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azareth and his companions.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah. So they might seek mercies from the God of heaven concerning the secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon.
Okay, so that answers if they ever felt any sort of fear. I'm going to go with
Yeah.
at least to the point of concern.
Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "This is where it gets interesting. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his, and he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding." So if we're understanding, he's going to give us knowledge. If I read it right.
There's a passage in the New Testament which says, let them that have ears hear and let those that have eyes see.
Right.
He will give you wisdom if you seek wisdom. That makes you have to be open to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I was in conversation with somebody earlier this week. Wisdom generally comes at a price.
Yes.
Most of us can attest. You can gain we've discussed this, the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is what you know. Wisdom is how well you know it.
Right.
You can gain knowledge by listening to others, asking questions, reading books, internet searches. Don't believe everything you see and read. You do need a certain amount of comprehension to know if somebody else is full of crap or not.
Right.
But you can gain all sorts of knowledge. Wisdom generally comes at a price. The best wisdom you're ever going to get is learn the hard way, and it hurts. I wish there was a better way. If there is, I haven't figured out what it is. My grandfather used to talk about the school of hard knocks. I have graduated cum laude.
Hard knocks.
Like I said, top of my class. I've made enough stupid decisions for all of us.
Yep. See, where was that? Devastating. Understand? Okay. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what is darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank God I praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's demands. So they're basically worshiping and praying.
Yeah.
In this process, trying to get information from God.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what we do on an everyday basis.
Pretty much. Now, this particular aspect is they went and they prayed over the situation, and this was called a night vision. It doesn't the way it's worded, it's not specifically that Daniel went to sleep and had a dream. The better idea I have of what they mean is it just happened to be at night, and more like a daydream. He was awake, but received this vision, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's called a night vision. So Of course, there might be a different interpretation than, I don't know, but the way I'm reading it is that he didn't have a specific dream. He was awake and had a vision.
So in the next one, the 24, Daniel becomes an instrument of common grace for Babylonian wise men, calling on Artichoke to stop their execution. So what is
Arioch.
Arioch? Okay,
Yeah, which is the
that's one we looked up a while ago, isn't it?
I can't remember if Arioch is, shall we say, the executioner, or if he's. Let me look back in chapter one.
Are
He
they
might be the palace guard.
Are they the guys with the black mask on and axe in their hands, so to speak?
I don't think they wore masks back then.
It's just a vision of it.
Right, right. But something tells me that he had a very wicked looking blade.
Right. So he basically said, "Do not destroy us, the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation." So through this worship and prayer, God showed them what to tell the king of the prayer. Am I understanding that right?
You're going to have to repeat that. I am looking for. Okay, Arioch is the commander of the king's guard.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what was your question?
He said, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation."
Yeah, he asked Arioch, like, slow your roll. Let me go talk to the king.
Right.
Um, because that was the king's decree.
Yeah.
Somebody has to tell me, or everybody dies. Daniel had the answer. Hold on a second. Don't get it.
I got this.
Right, right. Like, don't get too excited. Sometimes we get a little impatient.
And then they brought Daniel before the king and said thus to him, "I have found a man of the captives of Judah, who will make known to the king the interpretation." The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar.
Belteshazzar.
Belshazzar.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of syllables in there, and I'll be honest with you, I got the pronunciation from the Daniel movie.
I'm just going to watch that.
Do y'all have it?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure internet does somewhere.
Oh, it does. I tell you what, though, if you have, I'm not going to spoil it. Pay attention to the wise men and magi. You will see one that should look familiar from childhood.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you who.
Is it called The Book of Daniel or Daniel, the movie?
I really don't remember, but I've got it at the house. I'll send you a picture of the cover.
Okay.
And if y'all can't find it, then I'll bring it to you.
Let's see. And then the captives who would make, the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was, okay, I read already. So Daniel answered the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king has demanded the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers cannot declare the king. Now,
hold on a second, because I just got to know, and I don't know what know to what.
Oh, same here. But we need to find, okay, we don't have it.
Okay, gotcha. Context, missus, context. I got my head going in 9 different directions. But, you know why it's going in 9 different directions? Because it's not going in 10. Kind of sounds like, who was it that said that back in the day? Can't say the name, it's been blacklisted. Cosby, his early stand-up.
I always think
He's like, you know why we have 5 kids? It's because we did not want 6. And I'm like, that sounds kind of brilliant, to be honest. Yeah.
So they answered in presence, the secret which we're going to have them do. That's your response.
Thank you. All right.
But there is a God in heaven who reveals the secrets made known to the king. It will be the later days your dream and visions of your head upon your bed were these. As for you, O king, thoughts came to your mind while you're on your bed about what would come to pass after this. And he who reveals secrets has made known to you what will be. Wow. So that's 29.
Right.
So Daniel boasts not his own wisdom, but God's wisdom is what I got. Is what that's saying.
Yes, that's the point I was bringing up earlier. Is Daniel never claimed this power, this ability, this talent. He never claimed the ability in and of himself. He recognized that he was an instrument. Like we said last week, we're tools.
Yeah.
But he never, hey, God has given me the ability to it's God revealed this to me to tell you. Like he never claimed it. He never claimed the authority in and of himself, if that makes sense. Which is completely different than Moses getting mad and smacking the crap out of a rock and water coming out. Again, different sermon, different story.
Yeah,
but
different podcast for sure.
That cost him the promised land.
Yeah. So
I did hear an interesting joke.
What's that?
It's no secret, and I'm not trying to hate on women at all. I say that a lot, so apparently I sound that way a lot. But it's no secret that women have a hard time choosing what to eat.
Right.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because the first time they chose what to eat, it damned all of humanity.
That's a good one.
I can understand them being more hesitant now.
That makes sense. I was told.
And while that's a joke, and it's like I said, it's not meant to be against the females. It's just, well, that makes more sense. I wouldn't answer any dang questions after that either.
I was always told if you mention we're going to your favorite place to eat, oh, we're going here, then that's where they want to go. But I did have learned recently. I don't care and I don't know. It's in Nashville. There's an actual restaurant.
Have you heard about wanting to open up side chicks?
What?
Called side chicks. They serve chicken. You park in the Chick-fil-A parking lot. You're only open on Sundays. I'm like that. That's actually brilliant.
That's good.
There's another one I've heard about, but I'm not bringing it up on here. It's a barbecue place. They're wanting to call it butt stuff. And then you ask your wife, like, you want to do butt stuff? And she says yes.
That's when you get permission to rub up somebody else's butt?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, like I said, it's contextually dirty, so I'm shutting up.
Okay.
Do you want to read the dream?
Where was that at? Is it
about 31, I think.
I'll let you read.
Okay, I am in a different translation, and my reading out loud skills are terrible. So, here we go. Starting at chapter 2, verse 31, in your vision, your majesty, you saw standing before you a huge, shining statue of a man. It was a frightening sight. The head of the statue was made of gold. Its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs were iron, and its feet were a combination of iron and baked clay. As you watched, a rock was cut from a mountain, but not by human hands. It struck the feet of iron and clay, smashing them to bits. The whole statue was crushed into small pieces of iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold. Then the wind blew. I was getting a lot of messages real quick. Give me just a second. Then the wind blew them away without a trace, like chaff on the threshing floor. But the rock that knocked the statue down became a great mountain that covered the whole earth. Verse 36, that was the dream. Now we will tell the king what it means. Do you want to jump in there?
You ever had Five Guys?
As far as burgers, yes.
You're supposed to say it at the same time.
Yeah.
This is the dream. Now we will tell the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are king of kings, for the God of heavens has given you kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And whoever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. But after you shall arise another kingdom interior to yours, then a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as the iron, Ishmash. And it's what? Inasmuch? Is that a typo? 40. Inasmuch as iron breaks into pieces and shatters everything, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. That's a word.
It actually is a word. That's why the English language is hard. They take existing words, put them together, and then change the definition.
According to notes here, traditionally,
kind of like nonetheless.
Okay. All the above?
Yeah.
The fourth kingdom says traditionally thought to be Rome, like the iron that represents it. It will treat other nations with violence. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's kind of get through chapter 2 and possibly into Daniel's dream before we get into the potential interpretations.
Right. Let's see here. Number 41. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. The kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of iron shall be in it. Just as you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, and as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile, partly everything here, evidently.
Well, the
I guess piece and piece and piece.
it is described as the feet and toes will be a mixture of iron and baked clay, so more like a ceramic or a pottery.
Right.
Hard but brittle. But also, what's iron? The harder the iron, the more brittle it is.
Right. Yeah.
All right, but it's a mix. I that's all I got to say about that. I don't want to dive too far into that until we get more of the dream and stuff out.
Yeah.
Like the various kingdoms to come, so to speak. But let's see. You dropped off here about 41. The feet and toes you saw were a combination of iron and baked clay,
Right.
showing that this kingdom will be divided. Like iron mixed with clay, it will have some of the strength of iron, but while some parts of it will be as strong as iron, other parts will be as weak as clay. This mixture of iron and clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriage. And by that, it means, the king of this land is going to marry the daughter of the other king.
Yeah.
A lot of what's still practiced in Europe and the Arabian Peninsula today.
Right.
But they will not hold together just as iron and clay do not mix. During the reigns of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. It will crush all these kingdoms into nothingness, and it will stand forever. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain, though not by human hands, that crushed to pieces the statue of iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. The great God was showing the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and its meaning is certain. That's where Daniel stops with, "Thus saith the Lord."
Yeah. Yeah.
That goes back to the old Indian, "I have spoken."
Well, that's it goes.
Good. Bible says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no."
Your nay be nay, and say be say. And yeah, the Bible's kicking my butt.
Well, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
There are passages of encouragement. There are very heartwarming stories of, like Joseph, down and back up. Job, have you read Song of Solomon?
Not yet. I'm pretty sure it'll be in a podcast here soon, probably.
Well, you'll have to be gentle because it's dirty.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Apparently Solomon was in the mood when he wrote this one.
It's like I'm currently reading. I'm in the plan that I'm reading. It is trying to remember what was in.
And then.
It's in Job. Yeah. Job 31.
Yeah, Job. Job is, in many ways, it's tough to read, but it's.
Yes.
How did Jordan Peterson say it? He's like, the story of Job is hell to read because of what you're having to read. Like the Job did kind of go through a form of hell.
Uh-oh. I thought I was caught up. I'm behind. Whoops. Being a man of integrity in a sinful world is what I'm reading. I'm behind 6 days. I thought I was caught up.
Well, then your integrity is suffering, my brother.
Yeah, it is.
Brother,
I know what I'll be doing tonight. Besides
reading?
Yes.
Top to bottom, left to right, group of words together as a sentence.
I'll probably put my earbuds and let it read to
Take
me.
Tylenol for any headaches, Midol for any cramps.
Yes, Midol's the best for headaches.
It actually does work.
You need a Midol? Yes, I do.
I'm not going to throw a last name out there, but you remember Mama Sheila.
Yes.
I happened to be over there back in high school area, had a headache, like, you got any Tylenols? Like, I got Midol. And I didn't know,
Right.
you know. I'm like, hey, that's women's stuff, you know. And Dad's sitting there, he's like, oh, it works. He'd never lied to me,
No.
you know. Got me a couple of them. As soon as I got them swallowed, he looked me straight in the eye. He's like, but your nipples get hard. But yes, Midol actually does work good for headaches. Yeah, like, why would you tell? I think I might have been 14 or 15 at the time. I'm like, wow. Of course, now I'm older. I know exactly why he would say
Thanks,
that.
Dad.
Yeah, you know.
Now you tell me. After I take it.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the point.
With some hot sauce, how it is. Oh, it won't be that bad. You take a dip of it and your mouth is on fire for 3 days.
I get to, speaking of like snuff, that very thing, especially as younger generation, you will see like the pouches. You will see various things out there, and then that chest all puffed up like I'm a man, and I'm like, not till you've had Kodiak straight, you're not. You know, like I prefer Copenhagen over that. It's not that. You know, like if you don't do that, yeah, Copenhagen will set your mouth on fire. Skull will set your mouth on fire. The different flavors will make it better or worse. But if Copenhagen is like, let's say, a nice little campfire, and Skull might be more like a dumpster fire, Kodiak was more like the gas station getting run over. I mean, like you kind of look like that Nicolas Cage movie.
Gone 60 Seconds?
No. Flaming Head.
I know you're talking about. He has the flaming head.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember the name of that movie. Anyways, yeah.
You know, like that Kodiak straight back in the day, boy. I mean, your whole head caught fire.
Yeah, the one time I did that, yeah, it's not for me. It was the nastiest thing I ever had in my life. And I've had a lot of mud.
Yeah, but this is Kentucky mud.
Yeah. Got a little clay and a little dirt and a little.
Well, that's seasoning. It's seasoning.
Horse poop and cow poop, depending on where you work.
Organic.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think I stopped at 46. I think I know it's the end of chapter 2.
The aspect there is, you know, basically it finishes up with the king was forever thankful and grateful and Ghost Rider.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Nebuchadnezzar was grateful and he gave out gifts and valuables and
he got promotions.
Lofty, yeah. So I mean, and that's kind of the end of chapter 2.
This story teaches that God's people can survive, even thrive, while experiencing exile and persecution.
Well, the stupid thing, and I think a lot of people are, you know, as humans, we are a very forgetful and short-memoried people. Even in, you know, if we go through the Old Testament, the Israelites were there for the plagues of Egypt. They seen it. They didn't read about it. They were there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were there for the Passover, the original Passover that claimed the firstborn. And in my understanding, that wasn't the firstborns currently. That was if your dad and grandfather were firstborns, they were every firstborn. Is that correct? Is that about the right understanding?
Yeah.
You know, and it also applied to, you know, the livestock and everything. But they actually witnessed these things. They witnessed the parting of the Red Sea.
Right.
They were eating manna, you know, like sky bread. Yeah, I don't know how to really describe it, but, you know, angelic food. And you give them 3 days and they're like, well, we might as well go back to Egypt because it was better there. Like, I remember like reading through some of the Old Testament, and I'm like, how stupid are y'all? You seen this? You act, you know, like we read about it.
Yeah.
Y'all were there, and you give it a week, and like, oh well, who's this God guy? What's he ever done for us? I'm like, you literally crossed the parted Red Sea, and you see where I'm getting at?
Yeah.
But then I think about it, and when we have a need, a worry, we go to God and we pray as though He's never done anything for us before.
No, not at all.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
God, I really need this, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm trying to trust You, but I don't know how because I've got this going on, and I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, how can I judge them? We do the same thing.
Yeah.
You've been on social media. How many people can't remember past the previous broadcast of whatever news they watch? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, they said this last week. And I'm like, yeah, but I remember what they said 3 weeks ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, pandemic time. Like I remember what they said then. You can't remember past the last episode, and
Until the next episode.
either or, but it's, we have this problem as a people, we are very short-sighted, very.
They rather, as she said it best right there, we focus more on problem and more in the need for God.
Yeah.
Is nine out of 10 people will pray when?
Like God is a genie.
Right.
Only when you need something.
Yeah. Somebody's sick or in the hospital.
Maybe.
That's when they'll ask for help.
But that's only if it directly affects them or somebody they're very close to.
Yeah. And that the problem is it's not. It's the human world. It's human.
Yeah.
And because they were taught differently, or God, or somebody had hurt them in the church world, or whatever, instead of being in the Word of God every day like we are, and praying to God every day like we are. And I'm not saying we're better, because we're not.
No.
By all means, but whew.
I want to say I reshared a meme the other day that went something like, a lot of you have stepped out of the faith because you tried church, not God. Something either in the church or a church person was able, they did something, said something, or whatever, and that turned you from the faith.
Right.
And if that's the case, you weren't in God, you were in the church.
Right.
You need to be in God. And, the more I think about that, how many people will say, well, I don't go to church, it's just full of hypocrites. Do you go to the gas station?
Yeah.
Do you go to Walmart?
Walmart's more full
Well,
than
and not talking down any of these establishments, but anywhere there's people,
there's hypocrites.
there's hypocrites.
Restaurants,
And the worst
whatever.
part about it, and don't get me wrong, there are Christians, there are people of the faith. Now, I'm not going to say so-called Christians. I'm not going to say where a person stands in their salvation is between them and God.
Yes.
I only make those sort of judgments when it affects me, because we are called to, says specifically, like, you will know them by their fruit. Okay. But I don't do that from a distance. If it's like me and you associating with each other, if you're not showing the fruit, so to speak, I'm like, hey, we need to talk.
Right.
But if the best I see out of you is once every 6 to 8 months and it's for 5 minutes at a time, I'm not around you enough to make that decision.
Right.
And that might be the one time in 6 months that you screwed up.
Right.
So I try not to be too hasty, especially if I'm not in, like directly involved, if that makes sense. But how often do we do that? You'll have people that, they play church, they're holier than thou, they never sin, okay, that does far more harm to new believers.
Yeah.
Because when you try to give this outward appearance that you're perfect, that's what Jesus fussed at the Pharisees over. you know. So I would encourage, if there's anybody that might be guilty of that, you need to go back and read them Redlands, you know.
Yeah.
And we all screw up. And where I'm going with this, because I have got myself sidetracked at least 3 times into that one. Crap, it's on the tip. You have to be in the faith. You have to be there with God. If you won't go to church because there's hypocrites, don't go to the hospital because there's sick people there.
Right.
You know, like the church can be considered a hospital for people with a sick soul, so to speak. If you won't go to church because there's hypocrites or sinners there, then you can't go to the hospital when you're sick because there's sick people there. You know, if you don't like shopping, well, actually, I don't blame anybody for not wanting to go to Walmart. But use that same philosophy in any other aspect of your everyday life, and it sounds stupid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not going to the gas station because there's freaking gas pumps there. Duh. That's why they call it a gas station.
At one point in time, and I'm going to admit this publicly,
Here we go. We got some tea.
I didn't go to church for God.
I believe that. I think we've all been in a position where we might have been going for somebody.
Yes, I was for the preacher.
Yeah.
I was. I was going to church for the preacher because I thought he needed me. Come to find out, I needed God more than anything, which is the reason why God kept me there for 10 years.
Well, the thing about it is
And then God showed us a light for things.
a situation like that. Yes, you were going for the wrong reasons. Overall, for the wrong reason. But that falls under one of them categories where your heart was in the right place, but your head wasn't.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can't, a situation like that, and I'll be fair, just based on the details you said, I can't even fault that. At least you were going.
Yeah.
Um,
There was crazy. I didn't realize I was doing it until some individual. I mean, I knew I was because I was doing the steps, reading the Bible, doing what I'm supposed to do. I was basically there.
right.
And we went to a different church for a new experience. That's when we went to Global Vision and talk about everything that I was showing there within myself.
Right.
Like I was saying, hey, if you're going there for that man, you're doing it wrong.
You really are. And there's so many people at the same point in time that, and I'm not saying this in any judgment or condemnation. They go to church for themselves. They're going for their weekly recharge. The downside is scripturally, depending on how you want to word it, you were never told to go to church. You were told to be the church.
Yep.
And if your only involvement, and again, I'm not saying this in judgment or even condemnation, if your only involvement of church is going, sitting there, standing up when you're asked to, sitting down when, and don't get me wrong, even if you're listening, but if that's all you do. Now, if you're young in the faith, if you're still infants, so to speak, fine. Like if you're still an adolescent Christian, so to speak, you might not be involved enough or strong enough in the faith to really do much more.
Right.
But churches should be self-sustaining. You shouldn't have to hire people to sweep the floors. You shouldn't have to hire people to clean the windows or, whatever needs to be done.
God's people are supposed to do that.
Yeah, the church body of people should be doing the upkeep of the building in and of itself.
Yeah.
Now I understand, well, I pay tithes and whatnot. Okay, so you're keeping the downside is that paying tithes to the church, and that's all you do to support the church. I made the argument years ago, well, about last year, I made a big post on Facebook, government handouts, be it, low income, be it Social Security checks. all the money that went to Ukraine. I don't have a problem with that under certain settings, so to speak. But that's not charity. And it's certainly not what you would call biblical or scriptural charity.
Right.
And why the reason I made that case and how I made that case is all of that money is provided by taxes. You have no choice but to pay them taxes. Once you pay those taxes in, whether that money gets used to buy a Scud missile or sent, to feed the hungry, you have no say in where that money goes. Your representatives do, or our representatives.
Right.
That is not biblical charity. You cannot pay your taxes and then expect the government to do the work of the church. That's not what Jesus said. And the same thing goes with paying tithes. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes that's where we are. That's what we've got.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that in judgment. But we were called to be the church, not to pay the church to do it for us.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, there are times where there's an individual in need. Maybe their need is greater than I can handle. Hey, let's go to the church and see what can be done. The church as a body can do greater things than I can on my own. It's easier for the church to organize a mission trip to elsewhere than it is for me to. Not knocking any of that. But biblical charity is you doing it yourself. Plain and simple.
Right.
And like I said, there's no judgment. It's, it's hard for me to send food to Somalia, so to speak. But the church through the mission fields has an easier okay, so I can designate so much money through the church and I'm doing my part there. But just blindly paying tithe and expecting church to handle it, that's no different than paying your taxes and expecting the government to do it. Right. That's not charity on a biblical scale. You do it.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's all I have to say about that. Actually, no, I've got a lot more I could say about that, but I'm shutting up. I'm not a smart man, but I know what close your mouth means. Okay, here we go. Those look like really comfortable shoes.
So, moral to the story is, and we weren't church hurt. There was a time in my life that I was hurt by the pastor, preacher, whatever you want to call him, the speaker of a church that we attended. And we quit going to church for a long time.
Right.
And I had a thought in my mind at one point in time, God calls people to preach.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's not God's fault that they do what they do because they're human.
No, that is correct.
But with that being said, if you're watching this episode of the podcast, and of course this is towards the end of it, we should have said it's the beginning probably. If you are church hurt, it wasn't God that did it. So quit steering away from God.
Right.
There was a time that we did not read Bible or anything like that in our life, and I say our, as in my wife and I and our family. But things that happened that got us back into it, and it should have happened sooner, but I'm glad we did. We attended this church for 10 years. It's an amazing church.
Right.
I'm not saying anything bad about it. It was a season that God put us through, and God calls us to another season.
Right.
And we're attending Impact with you, and we're going to Global. We're going back and forth. But I think my main goal here, for concentration, so to speak, when it comes to God, is table talk.
Right.
Because we can reach people here in our county all day long.
Well, here's something that I'm going to say, and I'm not putting down the podcast in any shape, way, form, or fashion. What has always bothered me about the mission field is we, especially as far as the church as a whole, we worry so much about South Korea, North Korea, Vietnam. I know many missionaries that went to Europe. Do you know, this blew my mind. We had missionaries come in. There are a huge number of the population in present-day Istanbul that have no idea that that was a Christian-founded city.
Wow.
Hagia Sophia, or however you pronounce it, like one of the largest chapels of its day. There are paintings of the Virgin Mary all over the place, murals. They have no idea who it is.
Wow.
But getting back where I was going with that, we worry so much about these unreached people groups. I used to help support a missionary that was going to the Crimea Peninsula. Hey, great, and I liked him. Don't get me wrong. I didn't like all the missionaries that came in, and I'm not going to name them off, but there were some that I, I, from what I've seen, I did not see a smoke and mirror show. I believe the people were genuine. Their presentation made me at least believe that they believed that it was a need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I had no idea. But we focus so much on that we don't talk to our neighbor. We don't talk to the guy at the gas station. How many homeless people are around here?
A lot.
It pains me because that's not supposed to happen around here,
No.
but it does.
Yeah.
And and don't get me wrong, I do believe that every people group, so to speak, that isn't reached needs to be reached. But a lot of times we worry so much about stuff on the other side of the state that we forget about people on the other side of the property line.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Love thy neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
Like I said,
But we want to love a stranger because we'll have to see our neighbor tomorrow.
right. It's like, in the previous podcast, I said, do we have to? Well, yes, you do, because God tells you to.
Yeah. And that is another thing. I've heard people make comments for you, especially of the non-religious sort, that many Christians, they only do what the Bible is, it's like you only think that way because the Bible said it and you're honor bound to believe it. And I'm like, most of us didn't come to the faith like that. It's while even a lot of us might have been raised in it, that's not what got us. We seen a correlation between what it says and what we see.
Yeah.
And then if you do a deeper dive, don't just read the Bible and, oh, well, this guy was crucified, and then a lot of people said they seen him after the fact. Dig into it from a historical standpoint. All the disciples died very terribly for what might possibly be a lie. I mean, who goes? I've heard people use the argument that, well, people would, Christians will say, well, people don't normally, go to their death for a lie. No, that's false because there's people all over the world, Islam, like Vietnam and some of those, a lot of folks out there are more than happy to die for their religion.
Mm-hmm.
We believe it's a lie, but they don't. The disciples knew if it was a lie or not. And rarely are you going to find somebody that will knowingly die for a lie. And that's the point I'm making. And so it's not simply, well, I read it in this book, so it has to be true, and I have to follow. It's a correlation between we have seen this truth play out elsewhere.
Yep.
Like I said, those that have eyes that see, those that have ears that hear. If what bothers me about the unreached people here in America is not that they haven't been reached, is that they're too damn stubborn. Like that they get to a point where, well, if I just had enough evidence, okay, fine. Exactly what evidence would it take? Let's just lay it on the line there. What is your criteria? Well, I don't know. Okay, at least now you're being honest.
You woke up this morning.
Well, but that's a numbers game.
Right.
And that's the point that gets me is at least be intellectually honest with yourself. If you say, well, I just haven't seen enough evidence, okay, what amount of evidence is it going to take? Because you're probably at a point where you've already decided no amount of evidence is going to convince you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the people that I feel for them, because it's like they're slitting their own throat, so to speak.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. I know we're trying to wrap up, and I'm, you know.
You got a good point though. You know, my favorite thing I hear people say, I ask them, have you asked God to forgive you for your sins and yada yada yada? Ask God into your heart. Well, I gotta get right first if I come to God. No, you
Right,
don't.
right. See,
No,
that's the religious mindset. That is the thing that people don't get. Oh, that's religious. You're religious. I'm like, no, I'm not.
no,
There,
far from it.
if you can wrap your head around, there is a difference between religion and relationship. We don't dot the T's and cross the I's, and I know I said that backwards. I do it on purpose. But there are faiths and religions and whatnot out there. It's all pomp and circumstance. It's ceremony. It's repetition. Again, I'm not making a judgment call. That's between them and God. But there is a difference between devotion, and it has nothing to do with saying the right thing or doing the right thing on the proper full moon, depending on how high the sun is in the sky. And, if the wind happens to be blowing out of the east, you know, has nothing to do with pomp, circumstance, and ceremony.
No.
So again, I would encourage people to at least be intellectually honest with themselves.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're talking about, either ask or shut up.
Yeah.
Like I
I
said,
ask all the time.
well, and I'm not saying this to bust anybody's nuggets or nothing, but I have been in conversation with people that, like, I don't know where they're at now as far as faith. I'm going to lean somewhere between atheist and agnostic, but they have some, like, Catholic background.
Okay.
So anytime something comes up, all they know is their interpretation. It's not even what the Catholic teach. It's their interpretation of what the Catholic teach.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, where do you want me to start on how you're wrong?
Right.
And that's not about the Catholic aspect. That's you're making your own interpretation of what you think they really mean. That's not how this works, and it's the same way with the Constitution. I don't care what you think the Constitution really means. You need to ask the guys that wrote it.
Yeah.
Because there's enough writings from back in that time. They'll tell you what they were talking about. So our modern interpretation really means nothing. I mean, it might be fun to speculate, but
That reminds me back what I said something about, they got to get right with God first. I was talking to a gentleman.
is he really a gentleman?
Oh, no, he's got long hair.
Right.
Anyways, he's taller than me, but, I don't take much. Anyways,
I was going to say, ain't that about everybody?
he's a gentleman at work.
Right.
It's not the one I was talking about earlier. It's a different one. He's a sailor, so to speak.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm tired of hearing this. Do you go to church?
Right.
And he looked at me. What you say? I said, do you go to church? I'm just curious, He shows me his arm. He's got a tattoo of a skull on there. I'm like,
And?
what does that got to do with it? Well, I was raised in the Pentecostal church and yada yada. I'm like, what does that got to do with it?
What's the skull got to do with Pentecostal?
I said, Pentecostal is a man-made religion. He said,
Yeah.
what? I said, show me the Bible that says that Pentecostal is a religion.
Right.
And of course, we
Or
got
Church of Christ or Baptist or Episcopalian.
They're all man-made religions. Man-made, Baptist,
Right. No, not necessarily.
Zoolander, whatever.
Not saying that everything is wrong.
Right.
Just making the distinction that the Pentecostal faith or the Baptist or what the Bible don't even mention Catholics.
And
So
the other gentleman standing there with me was the other one I told you about that we prayed that morning. He said, God said, come as you are. And I chimed in. I said, come as you are, just don't come naked, because then you'll be a distraction.
right.
But we're just trying to get this guy to go to church, and I wish I could get everybody at work to go to church. It don't have to be our church, but just a church.
Right.
And then, of course, the other guy goes, well, you don't have to really go to church to learn about God. No, you don't.
No, you
But God requires you to be around other people.
Mhm.
Church family people, church like-minded people.
Yeah.
So, you know what? We're at church right now.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, let that go through your mind the rest of the night and think about what I just said. So, if you have a Bible study at your house and there's 4 or 5 people there, hey, you're in church.
It technically is. The
Or if
only
you're having a meal, you're at church.
where I caution people, a person can sit at home on their own and read their Bible. And like I said, you can go on YouTube and find sermons and whatnot. And I'm not saying that they're all bad. My problem, you honestly have two problems when you're isolated like that, and especially if you are a new believer. One is if you're reading the Bible and you have no background in it whatsoever, you are going to probably interpret that as you see fit.
Right.
All right. There's more than enough problem there already.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm not saying that everybody's dumb. It's simply like I was talking about the Constitution. It doesn't matter what you think it means. When you're reading Paul, it what you think he really means is irrelevant. Paul wrote it. He'll tell you what he means.
Yep.
If you will but listen, or read, so to speak.
Right.
The other aspect is, and these two go hand in hand, if you don't have any other source other than your own interpretation, you don't know if you're right or you're wrong. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And even if you're Googling and YouTubing, if you aren't at least somewhat versed, you won't know if they're a false teacher or not. Or maybe they may, because this does happen. Maybe they're not specifically a false teacher, but the way they worded this one particular phrase kind of bent it a little bit out of context. You'll never know.
Right.
And that is where I challenge, like I brought up earlier, well, you just believe it because somebody said so, or the Bible. No, the way this brain works is I'm constantly attacking things. I told pastors, like, probably not the first time I've seen them, but within a couple months of going there, I told them flat out, it's like, I'm listening to what you say and I'm pulling it apart 10 different directions. And he just kind of looked at me. I'm like, I don't mean that to be bad. And he finally was like, no, that's probably just how your brain works. That's exactly how my brain works. I'm attacking everything from multiple angles. Because if I can't pull it apart, you must be at least onto something. Now, if I can pull a string and get it to start unraveling, as long as I'm not making up that string,
Right.
Yeah. But no, that's what bothers me about a lot of pastors is, well, people, just people. They don't remember what they've previously said. I do. Like
Are you an archaeologist?
No. And it's not that I like digging up crap. It's if we're sitting in church, so to speak, and you say, hey, this passage here means this. Okay, fine. But 8 months down the line, you bring up that same passage to reference something else, my alarm bells start going off. I'm like, whoa. I've got a note about that somewhere.
What'd you say about that last time?
Yeah, and that immediate, and I don't think a lot of them even realize that they do it.
Right.
But I realize that they do it. So, good luck is all I'm going to tell you, because if I'm listening, I'm picking it and pulling it apart.
At least you're listening.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You see people out there sometimes just,
right.
Bless me if you can, I'm here.
Now, the only thing I've got to say is, well, you've been to the church, and a lot of times when they start reading the announcements, I'll just start picking and playing something.
Yeah.
I am actually listening to what they're saying. I just can't sit there and be still.
Right. You're like a squirrel. You can't sit in one place.
Pretty much, yeah.
I know. I figured that out.
Yeah, I'm old.
Yeah. I think they might have figured it out by now too. See, like she said, she said quit spinning. Alrighty then. So we'll end this up tonight and starting next Saturday. Well, not starting. We're finishing next Saturday. We'll go to.
I don't know if we will.
Go to 7.
Go to 7. Kind of knock out that dream.
They said that's 2 and 7 goes together, And then from there, I'm not 100% sure. Might go 8, 9, 10. I'm not 100% sure. Guess we'll go from
No,
there.
because there's depending on what direction you want this to go. Because if you really want to stay on Daniel, um, we'll have to go back to about chapter 4 or 5 because there's another the writing on the wall dream, and then I want to say chapter 8 or 9. Basically, the first several books of or, excuse me, chapters of Daniel is like an overview. These are the highlights, and then the last couple books, like, hey, back when this guy was king, this is what happened to Daniel specifically.
Yeah.
So that's why we're jumping around is, like Daniel 2 is the story of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Yes. But Daniel 7 is Daniel's dream about Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
Yep.
We'll
go to the fire furnace and so on.
Right.
And
so that's why Daniel skips around is that it's not specifically written in chronological order.
Right.
Now the first books are, like Nebuchadnezzar was first, and these events did happen, yes, but they don't tell you the whole story right then. If that makes any sense.
All right, well, we'll definitely be praying for y'all. If y'all need prayer, message us, Facebook, go to our website, and go to the bottom of the screen. It says enter your email address. Put your email in there. You'll get a weekly devotional, or I forget what the other one is, but you'll get messages from us once a week in your email. Also, the podcast will be there. The blog will be there. Speaking of that, I still got to read your blog. I done forgot about it again. She reminded me yesterday. Whoops.
You are behind on your reading, sir.
I'm behind on that and that. I'm gonna have to do a fast read or something. Do that whole.
Bible on one eye, blog on the other.
Yeah.
You look like crazy eyes there on Mr. Deeds.
Yeah. Look at that
I
eye.
didn't see nothing.
Look at that eye or that eye. Anyways, y'all have a good night and God bless, and see you next Saturday.
And pray for us. There's a lot of big words in the Old Testament.
Yes, there is. Yes,
names that we don't. Like I have a hard time with names past 4 letters. Even English ones. So.
And we got told we're supposed to what she said.
Well, she wants to go through the interpretations of the different kingdoms.
Yeah.
Which yes. So we're going to be in Daniel for a little bit.
If we can work it out next Saturday, we may have her on here with us to help.
Yeah, I figured she would be here this time. Yeah.
Well, we're trying to figure out the grandbaby, get somebody to watch her.
Right.
She's talking to you.
Yeah.
Do you know how to get to the website?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, now we can send it to the chat.
Right.
Click on it.
But no, she's she's right. I do kind of want to go from where we're at now into Daniel's dream about this dream, and we could probably then spend time breaking it down. Okay, now what does this mean as far as on a global, because it goes beyond Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
So we might do that, kind of stay on that until we break apart the aspects of what we're dealing with, and then move on to the writing on the wall and what that means.
Every time I hear about the dream, all I think about is Martin Luther King.
I have a dream. I heard a guy do a comedy skit years ago, and it stuck with me. And, he was using Martin Luther King's mannerism, but I don't think he was making fun of him. But he was talking about, like, either Denny's or Shoney's or whatever. They used, back when we were kids, they had, like, excellent pancakes, whichever one it was.
Yes. Oh,
he's like, I have a dream, golden, fluffy pancakes, rich maples. He kind of, like, I'm sitting there watching it, like, David, preach, I'm hungry.
I am hungry.
Right, yeah.
Dinner's waiting.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I got plenty of salvage. Anyways, so yeah, definitely we'll see you, and we'll see you next Saturday. God bless.
Yes. And then